This is Shinjuku Station, Tokyo, the largest station in Japan. Among the gates of this station, which is so complex that it has become a dungeon, I am at the east gate on the northeast basement level 1 for the JR lines. Here's the Shinjuku East-West Free Passage, which was completed in 2020. Among the various lines that converge at Shinjuku Station, the one I am heading to now is Seibu-Shinjuku Station on the Seibu-Shinjuku Line. The only station other than this one that does not use just the name Shinjuku is Shinsen-Shinjuku Station. Shinsen means new line, on the Keio line. Shinsen-Shinjuku Station opened in 1978 and has new line in its name to distinguish it from the pre-existing Keio line Shinjuku Station. In contrast, Seibu-Shinjuku Station has used the name Seibu-Shinjuku Station since it opened in 1952. Furthermore, Seibu-Shinjuku Station is located away from the JR and other railway stations. Seibu-Shinjuku Station is located north of the JR station, in an area where the JR tracks that left Shinjuku Station gather and the Chuo line branches away. Because Shinjuku Station is large, it can be distant and inconvenient depending on the car I ride and the line I am transferring to, but Seibu-Shinjuku Station is distant as a station itself. It is so far from Shinjuku Station that the adjacent Shin-Okubo Station on the Yamanote line is actually closer. I proceed through the underground passage. From Shinjuku Station to Seibu-Shinjuku Station, the distance is about 700 meters, 2,300 feet via the underground passage. The area near Shinjuku Station is naturally crowded, but the number of people decreases once I move a short distance away. Even in Shinjuku, where guide signs with a retro feel still remain, the day it transforms through redevelopment is near. I cross over the tunnel of the Marunouchi Line. This passage constitutes the Shinjuku Subne underground shopping mall, and shops line the sides of the passage. The interior design changes from here, giving an elegant feel with wood grain patterns. Particularly under Yasukuni-dori Avenue, the underground mall expands to fill the entire space beneath the 40-meter, 130 feet wide road, and there are 2 passages. Since it is a holiday morning, the shops are not open, and people passing through are sparse. I reach the end of the Shinjuku subnode. Seibu-Shinjuku Station is located beyond the point where I turn right here. Perhaps because the Shinjuku subnode and the space under the station are partitioned here, there is a partition door. It seems I can reach Seibu-Shinjuku Station by proceeding here, but first I will go up these stairs on the left to the ground level. The brick-finished walls that continue from near the exit of Shinjuku subnode are full of a retro feel. On the walls, advertisements for Seibu's Limited Express Kodo and advertisements for the terminus, Kawagoe, are lined up, and the Seibu atmosphere becomes stronger. I emerge on the ground level while circling the stairs. Here, I turn around once more and emerge next to Yasukuni-dori Avenue on the south side. This is Seibu-Shinjuku Station, which I am introducing this time. However, this whole structure is not entirely the station. On the 10th through 24th floors, there is the Shinjuku Prince Hotel, which has 561 guest rooms. It is one of the largest Prince hotels, featuring party spaces that accommodate banquets, parties, meetings, and seminars. On the floors below, from the 2nd basement to the 8th floor, there is a commercial facility. While this is also a commercial facility of the Seibu Group, there are shops of the Tokyo Group, which used to be in a hostile relationship, showing that times have changed. Seibu-Shinjuku Station is located on the 2nd floor, sandwiched between the hotel and the commercial facility. Most people who exit the station turn right in front and head to the west side. Because the Shinjuku subnode I took is a detour, transferring between Seibu-Shinjuku Station and other lines takes extra time. Since there are shortcut paths along the JR tracks on both the west and east sides, it is more convenient to use those. As for Asakusa Station, the starting point of the Tobu Skytree line, the building itself is a commercial facility named Ikimise, and the Matsuya Asakusa department store occupies the 1st basement, 1st floor, and 3rd floor. Asakusa Station is located only in the back of the 2nd floor section, sandwiched by the building, reached by entering from the front entrance and going up the stairs or escalators. Seibu-Shinjuku Station has a similar structure, where one enters the building, goes up to the 2nd floor, and proceeds to the back. Tobu and Seibu are somehow similar after all. Ticket machines and manned counters are on the left side. Since there are no ticket machines right in front of the gate, one must buy tickets here. The sight of people sitting on the floor from the morning gives it a somewhat unpleasant atmosphere. The gate area has a high ceiling and features donut-shaped lights, which are rare for a station. Before looking at Seibu-Shinjuku Station and Takadano-Baba Station in detail, I will explain why Seibu-Shinjuku Station is farther away than other stations. The origin of the Seibu-Shinjuku Line is the section constructed by a private railway of that time, Kawagoe Railway. This includes the current Kokubunji Line and the section corresponding to a part of the Shinjuku Line. Looking at a railway map from the end of the Meiji era, only some of the lines later absorbed into the national railways are open, and most lines that exist today as private railway lines are not yet open. This shows the long history of this section. Kawagoe Railway was a subsidiary of Kobu Railway, which operated the current Chuo Line. Initially, they planned to connect the tracks at Shinjuku Station, but constructing a long route was financially difficult, so they decided to connect at Kokubunji Station. It is said that there were direct trains from Idamachi Station, which was a freight station near the current Idabashi Station, to Kawagoe. In April 1927, the section between Higashimurayama and Takadano-Baba opened all at once, and through service between Takadano-Baba and Kawagoe began. At that time, the newly created section was named the Murayama Line. At that time, Takadano-Baba Station did not handle freight, and the route via Kokubunji remained the same. In 1937, a license for the section from Takadano-Baba to Shinjuku was applied for. However, the planned extension route leading to the west side of Shinjuku Station intersected with the Yamanote Line and others, and the then Ministry of Railways expressed disapproval, leading to a rejection. The Takadano-Baba area suffered great damage from air raids during World War II. Comparing photos from before and after the war shows that the number of buildings decreased significantly. Takadano-Baba Station also suffered damage, with the station building being completely destroyed by fire. After the war, in 1946, Seibu applied for a license from Takadano-Baba to Shinjuku again. There were two main reasons. One was the desire to serve Shinjuku, a hub station where various lines converge, and the other was to connect tracks with the Yamanote Line and others at Shinjuku to make freight transport more efficient. Unlike when the license was applied for before the war, the planned extension route this time was on the east side of Shinjuku Station, and there were no intersections with other lines. The license was eventually granted, and in March 1952, the extension between Takadano-Baba and Seibu-Shinjuku was completed. However, this was a rare case for that time. This was because it was a period when various private railway companies aimed for extensions inside the Yamanote Line and competed to apply for licenses. Particularly, companies were proactive about subway construction, and numerous licenses were in a state of chaos. These were routes set by each company prioritizing its own interests, and if granted as they were, control would be lost. Eventually, it was decided that the Taito Rapid Transit Authority, commonly known as the Eidon Subway, and the predecessor to Tokyo Metro, would centrally handle construction and operation, and private railways basically became unable to build their own subways or extend tracks inside the Yamanote Line. Although the Tokyo Metropolitan Government later entered the construction and operation of subways, the basic rule has not changed. The only case after the war where a private railway extended its line inside the Yamanote Line, regardless of a subway, is the section between Takadano-Baba and Seibu-Shinjuku by Seibu. Behind the establishment of this rare extension at the time was a company with a distant operating area, Keisei Electric Railway. To be precise, it is Shin Keisei Electric Railway, which was merged into Keisei Electric Railway in April 2025. The Shin Keisei line was originally a route that converted a practice line laid by the railway regiment of the former Imperial Japanese Army. This practice line continued from near Matsudo in western Chiba Prefecture through Tsudanuma and Narashino to Chiba. The laying of railways was also militarily important, and it is said that laying and dismantling were repeated. The former army was dismantled after the war, and Keisei and Seibu both set their eyes on the practice line that was left abandoned. Because the areas along the line were railway blanks, they thought they could profit by making it a passenger line and developing the surroundings. Both companies, which hired people who had been soldiers in the railway regiment, lobbied the GHQ, and ultimately permission was granted to Keisei. On the other hand, there was a reward for Seibu as well, as some of the materials owned by Keisei were handed over to Seibu. It is said that these post-war movements were involved in the background of Seibu's Shinjuku extension being approved. At the same time as the extension to Seibu-Shinjuku, the section from Higashi-Murayama to Honkawagawa was incorporated into the Shinjuku Line, and the section from Kokubunji to Higashi-Murayama was renamed the Kokubunji Line, creating the current operating systems of the Shinjuku Line and Kokubunji Line. However, at that time, Seibu was thinking of extending the line to a place much closer to Shinjuku Station. In 1964, the building where the Shinjuku Line station was planned to be located was completed as the Shinjuku Station building.
And this is an illustration drawn before the construction of the building began. There was a viaduct for the Shinjuku Line to the northwest, behind the right side of the building, and the concept was for the terminal end to be attached to the building. There is also a floor plan, featuring 1 platform and 2 tracks, with facilities that could accommodate 6-car trains. Since the whole picture is not shown in this diagram, it is unknown if there were other gates or facilities. However, the dead-end gate at a terminal station, which tends to be crowded, is quite small, giving an impression of concerning capacity. The number of Shinjuku Line users was growing rapidly at the time, to the extent that there were even plans for 8-car operations. However, if a platform supporting 6 cars was made to support 8 cars, the width of the tip would become too narrow, and the supervising authorities expressed disapproval. Although making trains 8-car sets of 6+2 and decoupling 2 cars at Takadano-Baba Station was considered, it was passed over as unrealistic, and the plan to extend the line here was abandoned. Subsequently, the station building and other facilities were built at Seibu-Shinjuku Station, which had been a temporary station, in the 1970s, making it physically impossible to extend the Shinjuku Line. The Shinjuku Station building of that time remains as Lumine Est Shinjuku. Looking at the floor plan, it can be seen that the place where Seibu-Shinjuku Station was supposed to be attached is handled neatly. I will look in detail at the state of Seibu-Shinjuku Station, where the temporary station became the main station and became a quiet terminal station, and the state of the adjacent Takadano-Baba Station. I enter the gates of Seibu-Shinjuku Station. With 2 platforms and 3 tracks, it has a medium-sized feel among the terminals of major private railways connecting to the Yamanote Line.
Facing the outbound direction, the right is Platform 1, the middle is Platform 2, and the left is Platform 3. Platform 2 and Platform 3 are on both sides of the same platform. After waiting for a returning express train to arrive at Platform 3, the limited express Koeido bound for Kawagoe departs from Platform 2. The limited express of the Seibu-Shinjuku Line is this Koeido, and roughly 1 or 2 trains are operated per hour. At Seibu-Shinjuku Station, Koeido arrives and departs from only Platform 2, and boarding position markers are also located only on Platform 2. The vehicle is this 10,000 series, which debuted in 1993. For the purpose of rationalizing maintenance and reducing costs, equipment from the 101 series and 5000 series was reused. Because it reused equipment from vehicles that appeared during the height of the Showa era, it was characterized by a roaring sound during travel, but it is scheduled to disappear with the introduction of new vehicles. A returning local train arrives at Platform 1. While the limited express Koeido is a 7-car set, and the express is basically a 10-car set but also has 8-car sets, the local train is only 8 cars. This is because some intermediate stations have short platforms where 10-car trains cannot stop. Additionally, roughly half of the daytime local trains turn back at the intermediate Tanashi station, which is a common pattern for suburban lines. Incidentally, looking toward the outbound side from Platform 1, one can aim for arriving trains while capturing them with Yamanote Line trains. This is the interior of the local train that arrived at Platform 1. It is easy to take shots without people, but even for a local train on a holiday morning, it feels like there are a bit too few people. The 3 platforms at Seibu-Shinjuku Station are roughly divided by service type, and Platform 3 is mainly used for express trains.
There are boarding position markers for the first and next trains, and passengers are guided to line up orderly in 3 rows. Where the platform is narrow on the outbound side, the lines for orderly boarding extend to the side of Platform 2. On the other hand, Platform 2 has only wide boarding position markers and does not have lines indicating lining up positions. The red line that turns at a right angle and extends sideways is the line indicating the boarding position for Koedo. Perhaps because 6-car trains sometimes run on the Seibu-Shinjuku Line, the platform screen doors bulge at the position corresponding to the front of a 6-car train on Platform 3, and the backside of the wide doors remains without being retracted. At Seibu-Shinjuku Station, there is another gate on the outbound side of the platform. This is open only after 7 a.m. and is smaller in scale and has fewer people than the gate seen first. There are only people getting off the train, and there is almost no flow of people boarding the train. It is unfair to compare it with Shinjuku Station, which was always overflowing with people, but other than the flow of people heading toward the gate increasing after a train arrives, it is quiet for a terminal station. I board an outbound train and head to the adjacent Takadano-Baba Station. Shin-Okubo Station on the Yamanote Line can be seen on the back left. The ends of the platforms are quite close to each other, but since the exit of Shin-Okubo Station is toward the back of the screen, transferring seems to take a bit of time. The starting point of the Seibu-Shinjuku Line is Seibu-Shinjuku Station, but the practical hub station is the adjacent Takadano-Baba Station. The number of passengers at Seibu-Shinjuku Station is not the highest on the Seibu-Shinjuku Line and loses to Takadano-Baba Station.
The daily average number of passengers in 2023 was 143,181 at Seibu-Shinjuku Station, while it was 264,763 at Takadano-Baba Station. Takadano-Baba Station is about 1.8 times more crowded than Seibu-Shinjuku Station. Since both Seibu-Shinjuku and Takadano-Baba stations do not have gates connected to other lines and have no through service, these figures purely show the number of people who passed through the gates. When comparing the number of passengers at boundary stations with lines that have through service, the number of passengers riding through trains may be counted in the passenger numbers. In that case, the actual state of the station is not accurately reflected, but the figures for Seibu-Shinjuku Station and Takadano-Baba Station accurately represent their respective realities. The train arrives at Takadano-Baba Station. All trains, including the limited express Koedo, stop here. Takadano-Baba Station has one inbound and one outbound track, and platforms are located between the tracks and further to the right across the inbound track. Previously, there was only the platform between the tracks, but an inbound platform was newly established in 1963, and the original platform is basically dedicated to outbound trains. This is an approach to handle increasing passengers by adding platforms and separating inbound and outbound lines, and such station structures are not very rare, but Takadano-Baba Station has an even more special place. That is here. On the inbound track of Takadano-Baba Station, there are signals at shorter intervals than at ordinary stations. Normally, signals are located before the platform and where the train leaves the platform. However, here, there is one unit about 70 meters, 230 feet away from the signal before the platform, another unit about 80 meters, 260 feet further away, and another unit about 210 meters, 700 feet further away.
If the signal in front is no longer red, the following train can enter the platform, allowing for a reduction in waiting time even during the morning rush. Also, while this signal can display 4 types of speeds, this signal in the middle displays only 3 types. A stance aiming for smooth operation during the morning rush can be seen in the specifications and intervals of the signals. And at Takadano-Baba Station, there are also measures to shorten boarding and disembarking time. Both platforms facing the inbound track have platform screen doors, allowing boarding and disembarking from either side. This is to expedite the boarding and disembarking of inbound trains during the weekday morning rush. On the Shinjuku Line, many passengers transfer to the Yamanote Line or the Tokyo Metro Tozai Line at Takadano-Baba Station. The width of the added platform is also not very wide, and passengers accumulate, taking time for boarding and disembarking. Therefore, when an inbound train arrives at the station, the doors on both sides are opened, and people are directed to the relatively empty outbound platform to alleviate congestion. It is not the conductor but a staff member on the platform who opens the doors on the outbound platform side. On the monitor above the door on the right side in the direction of travel, a floor map in the form of disembarking from the right side door, which usually does not appear, is displayed. Because the cars toward the rear of the inbound train are convenient for transferring to the Tokyo Metro Tozai line, they are packed just before arriving at the station, but they are empty after departing, with not even 10 people riding per car. As introduced in the beginning, even if Seibu-Shinjuku Station were moved, the problem of insufficient platforms would likely be solved if the rear cars were decoupled.
However, if Seibu-Shinjuku Station becomes convenient, everyone will naturally ride all the way to Seibu-Shinjuku Station, so it is not certain that the rear cars will become empty. Disembarking passengers from the cars to be decoupled also takes effort. And additionally, extra tracks for temporarily holding cars or moving them to the outbound track are necessary, so it is still not realistic. The main gate is located on the outbound side of the platform. The connecting Tokyo Metro Tozai line is under the main street on the north side of the station, the outbound side, and transferring from this gate is convenient. Being able to board the Yamanote line as well, the area around the gate is overflowing with people, which is different from Seibu-Shinjuku Station. Also in the middle of the Shinjuku Line platform, there is a gate dedicated to transferring to the Yamanote line. This gate was heavily renovated in 1998, and automatic fare adjustment machines that were on the platform until then have been moved here. In addition to a counter to provide accurate guidance to transferring passengers, to utilize the abundant transfer demand, there is a Tomini convenience store operated by Seibu and Family Mart, as well as a Kobeya bakery and Starbucks inside the gate. And at Takadano-Baba Station, a special operation is also performed on the outbound track. I return to the outbound platform. On the floor, markers for orderly boarding are lined up densely. Perhaps because all trains run on the same track, the lining up positions and background colors are divided by service type, and the quantity is greater than on Platform 3 of Seibu-Shinjuku Station. Also, positions for both 10-car and 8-car trains are listed. To avoid the platform becoming extremely crowded, the inbound platform side is for passage only.
And at this station, despite the main gate being at the outbound end and the transfer-only gate for the Yamanote line being in the middle of the platform, the limited express Koeido and the reserved seat Hajima liner stop shifted toward the rear of the platform. Although it is to alleviate congestion, stopping a paid train away from the main gate is not desirable as it increases the walking distance. This is a reflection of the fact that Takadano-Baba Station is so crowded that passengers cannot be handled otherwise. The limited express ticket machines for the limited express Koeido are in the middle of the platform. And this is close to the position where the front car of the limited express Koeido stops. Although it is a bit away from the main gate, it is the most convenient location within a range that does not promote platform congestion, and it is not that much of a burden for passengers who entered from any gate. And on this outbound platform, there is the 0 kilometer, 0 miles post of the Seibu-Shinjuku Line. A 0 kilometer post is something erected at the starting point of a railway line. Since Takadano-Baba Station was somewhat solidified as the starting point before the war, the 0 kilometer post was created here. Although it was extended to Seibu-Shinjuku Station after the war, moving the 0 kilometer post would require recalculating all other distances, so it was resolved by assigning distances to increase from Takadano-Baba Station towards Seibu-Shinjuku Station. Furthermore, this station has one more feature. Toward the inbound end, the width of the platform is narrow and there are almost no people. This is door 1 of car 1 of a 10-car train, in short, the very rear. Just now, an outbound 10-car express bound for Kawagoe is stopped. However, there are platform screen doors even further toward the rear in the direction of the train's travel.
The largest number of cars on the Seibu-Shinjuku Line is a 10-car set, but platform screen doors are provided for 11 cars. Yes, the limited express Kodo and the Hajima liner not only stop shifted toward the rear of the platform, but they stop 1 car's length further back. In the case of the 7-car limited express Kodo, space for 4 cars at the front of the platform can be left empty, alleviating congestion. Also, even with the 10-car Hajima liner, space for 1 car at the front can be left empty.
For paid trains, passengers line up along the train arrives, so the platform tends to become crowded, and the effect of shifting the stopping position is large. Extra costs are incurred not only for the platform, but also for the development of platform screen doors, but the intensity of congestion can be seen in the fact that they go that far. There was a plan in motion to improve this situation and fundamentally improve the transport form of the Shinjuku Line. That was the plan announced in 1987 to quadruple the tracks between Kamishakuji Station and Seibu-Shinjuku Station. Normally, quadruple tracks mean lining up 4 tracks horizontally, but this plan was to quadruple the tracks by establishing express tracks under the existing tracks at a depth of 40 to 60 meters, or 130 to 200 feet. Creating intermediate stations would cause costs to skyrocket and the construction period to extend, so the only stations for the express tracks were Takadano-Baba and Seibu-Shinjuku. The aim was to establish the express track platforms at Seibu-Shinjuku Station in a location closer to other lines to improve transfers. This plan received certification as a specific urban railway improvement project in December 1987. This is a system established to support railway companies that required large-scale investments for transport improvements.
It is a mechanism that allows railway operators to raise fares for 10 years to accumulate construction costs, and then reduce the amount over 10 years after construction is completed to return it to users. The trigger was a guideline issued in a 1985 report by the Transport Policy Council to keep the congestion rate of railway lines in the Tokyo area below 180%. Multiple major private railways in the Kanto region use this system, and the quadruple tracking of the Odakyu-Odawara line and the enlargement of vehicles on the Kyo-Inogashira line use this system. In the year following the certification of the specific urban railway improvement project, September 1988, approval from the Minister of Transport was granted, and the addition to fares began. The investigation and design of the underground tunnels were entrusted to the Japan Railway Construction Public Corporation, and construction was partially commenced. However, this plan soon hit 2 walls. First, passing a railway at a depth of 40 meters to 60 meters, 130 to 200 feet underground in a large city, still has almost no precedence even today. Even Roppongi Station on the Toei-Odo line, which is one of the deepest in Japan, has a depth of about 42 meters, 137 feet from the surface, and opened in 2000. Furthermore, due to legal changes, it became necessary to secure evacuation routes from underground tunnels according to the number of people transported, so construction costs continued to increase beyond original assumptions. Additionally, the downward revision of passenger number assumptions against the backdrop of the collapse of the bubble economy and the declining birth rate and aging population also dealt a blow. Hit by the double punch of decreasing profit prospects and increasing costs, a decision was made in January 1995 to postpone the plan indefinitely. Fares were temporarily lowered to return to users the portion added to fares to be used as reserves. On March 31, 2008, when the original scheduled completion deadline for the quadruple tracking work was reached, licenses and other permissions were not extended and expired, and the quadruple tracking plan vanished into a phantom. Then, in April 2021, it became clear that Seibu would proceed with specific consultations regarding a plan to construct a new underground passage directly connecting Seibu-Shinjuku Station and the Tokyo Marunouchi Line Shinjuku Station. The newly established underground passage will directly connect the area where the Marunouchi Line Shinjuku Station is located and the Shinjuku subnode I took along the JR tracks. With a length of about 140 meters, 460 feet, it will be the shortest route, and as a route protected from rain, the required time will be shortened from the current 11 minutes to about 5 minutes. In addition to having great benefits for transferring passengers, it will also lead to the dispersion of users. In the past, when there was a plan to construct underground express tracks on the Shinjuku Line and quadruple the tracks, there was a plan to develop this underground passage as a passage outside the gates. While the quadruple tracking plan became a blank slate, and that plan also disappeared, it has now made a comeback. This is also linked to the redevelopment of the Shinjuku area, and Seibu plans to promote the project in the fiscal 2025 Railway Business Equipment Investment Plan and beyond.